the White House doesn't learn the proper lessons from the failures and from the poor decision making that it engages in on a regular basis. They do something, the outcome is bad, and they keep doing more of it. They say, if only we double down, then things will get better. That's one defining characteristic of the Biden regime. Another one is that they will still focus on things that do not matter, and even in some cases, do not even exist. Do not even exist. Equal pay day is based upon the myth that there is widespread systemic pay inequity based on sexism. You've probably heard this. Women only earn 71 cents on the dollar, or when the number changes, 75 cents, whatever it is, something like that. And when they actually look at this in a real way, when they don't create studies the way they create mask studies now, where they don't have a control group and they just are trying to come up with an excuse to push a modeling approach to it. Well, we modeled this on a computer, so here's the answer. Well, what went into your model? Well, be quiet. Don't ask questions. Equal pay day is a thing now. I didn't even know this. I think it's March 7th every year. Now, there's equal pay day. And Kamala Harris, because if you ever want someone to represent merit, hard work, and the top level of skill in one's profession, everybody thinks of Kamala. Kamala Harris at the Equal Pay Day Summit. Here she is with the usual. Please. Oh, I think so.
Our economy just has not been working as it should for the women of our nation. Across industries, women are less likely to be hired than equally qualified men. They are paid less and promoted slower for doing similar work. Women are routinely shut out of good jobs in high-paying industries, such as science and technology, construction and truck driving, in part because our society tells women that some industries are just not for them.
This is just not true. I mean, this is one of these things the left keeps saying. They keep saying it, and every time it's debunked, you come back to it, it's not true. The wage differences reflect personal choices. They reflect economic reality. They reflect hours worked in. They reflect the difficulty and risks of different professions. Clay, if you ran a business, very successful business, been acquired by Fox. If you could save 30% on all personnel costs.
That's my argument every time. Anybody who has ever run a business, if you told me that women only made 70% of what men make, why would every business in America not exclusively hire women and save 30% on their labor cost? And what's frustrating about this is just a lie. But what's also frustrating about this is if you really want to focus on women and the challenges they're facing right now, Buck, it's the 2-year anniversary of 15 days to slow the spread. Do you know the overwhelming group of workers out there that bore the brunt of the shutdown and the lockdown? Women. Because women overwhelmingly bear responsibility for childcare in this country. So shutting down schools and not allowing women to work, I believe, I'm not sure we've gotten back there yet, we were at a 30-year low for female participation in the workforce early in this year or late in last year as the ravages and impacts of the shutdowns continued. So if you really wanted to have a nuanced, intelligent discussion about the challenges to women, it would have been a discussion about how all of the experts, in quotation marks, failed, and women bore the brunt of their failures when they shut down schools and when they shut down the economy. Remember, we're still over 2 million fewer people working today than were working when the shutdowns happened back in March of 2020.
There's also, in this equal pay, this pay disparity myth, a gender negation component, because the left insists that women and men, if left to their own devices, will just make the exact same professional choices. And so when that doesn't actually sort out that way, it must be because of misogynistic gender discrimination, which is a very simplistic and really kind of Marxist view of how all this stuff actually works. Let's start with this one. Veterinarians, for example. Veterinarians are highly paid, and it's a profession that is dominated statistically by women. Not all women. It's not all women, but it's something like 60, 65%. A solid majority of veterinarians across the country, they make a lot of money. Are men being excluded from that, or are more women choosing that? There's also nursing. There's primary school instruction. There's these areas where women make choices that are reflected in the marketplace because women are more likely to do, let's say, veterinarian work and less likely to be on one of those freezing cold ships where they pull the tuna out of the Bering Sea that they made the show of, you know?
Well, Biology, Deadliest Catch, fantastic
Thank
show.
you.
Biology is real. And biology is real. And every man who's married out there and has ended up having kids, by and large, a huge percentage of you have found out that women plan far better for having children than men do because they are aware of the challenges that come with having children in a way, and I'll put myself in this category, frankly, that I never was. And they also, again, bear so much of the responsibility for childcare that the people who were failed the most by lockdowns, number one, were kids. Number two, were moms. And that's why we have to have real consequences in the midterm elections coming up very soon. Women are angry. They need to have their votes counted and heard in a monstrous way.
Brittany in Raleigh, North Carolina, fired up about equal pay for women stuff. What's up, Brittany?
I was listening to you, play one of those typical VP Harris clips, and I get a little frustrated when people want to talk about the equal pay, and especially with COVID, how we keep hearing this line about how COVID was actually really bad for women because we all left the workforce to come home and take care of our kids, and so the fix is childcare. And I actually think what COVID did is it reminded parents that they want to take care of their own kids. Sorry, I'm doing laundry, running up and down the stairs. So parents want to be taking care of their own kids, and we got to do that during COVID. And then with everything we saw that our kids were seeing and hearing and experiencing while we're busy working, we decided, I don't think I want to outsource that anymore.
Brittany, how many kids do you have?
I have 4.
What ages are they?
And 3 to 11.
Oh, my God. So you're in the weeds. I'll tell you this, and Brittany, I bet you'll agree. So when we had our third kid, my wife was able to stay home and didn't have to continue to work. She was a guidance counselor at schools. She quit working a little bit before that third kid and was able to stay home with our 2 youngest. And I'll tell you this, our life got 1,000,000,000% better. And I do think, Brittany, there is some of that. A lot of parents out there recognized, okay, we're a dual income family, but what are we spending on childcare? What are we losing by not being with the kids ourselves? And I think a lot of women recognize that maybe trying to reach for that brass ring didn't make sense when you might feel more fulfilled and happy being home with your kids, especially when they're young before they get into that, kindergarten school age. Do you hear other women talking about that, Brittany?
I do, and I actually just had a conversation a couple weeks ago there were 4 of us in the conversation who all have a different number of children, and we all work or don't work a different amount or, intensity of jobs, from very full-time to one as a stay-at-home homeschooling mom. And we all agreed that actually what we would like, what our families would like, what our husbands and I would like is a tax code that doesn't burden us so dramatically as middle-class families that both parents have to be working.
Yeah.
We would like inflation to be under control so that we can pay the bills and we do have money for the kids to do some activities, for us to take a vacation once a year, and it not have to require that both parents work for that. And that gets so lost in so much of the national conversation that just think, well, let's just provide more daycare, more childcare, more daycare, free preschool. Let's separate kids from their parents more, and that'll fix it. And that's not actually what families want. Families want to be together. And I think a lot of families are frustrated that they don't even have the opportunity to have a conversation in their home about whether or not they'd like to be a single income family because it's less and less attainable.
I think there are so many families, Bernie, thank you for the call. I can only speak, we were spending so much on childcare that my wife was basically making her income, and then it was going back out the door for childcare, Buck. And, it turns out that people who are older than you Some of them have some pretty good ideas. And the idea of having, and by the way, it can be a woman who's working, man can stay home, whatever the situation might be. But having one parent who is able to focus 100% on the kids and another parent who is working outside of the home or working full time is actually, our life got 1,000,000,000% better when my wife was able to quit working and stay home with our kids and I was still working. Now, I know that can be financially struggle for many people, but like we did the math on it back in the day when my kids were super young, and we were spending just as much on childcare as my wife was making as a guidance counselor at a public high school. And I think there are a lot of people, I think Brittany's call is right, Buck. There are a lot of people who question many of their life choices during this COVID mess and have made significant life adjustments.
Yeah, one of the only upsides of it, I think, was that there was so much more time spent in the home for a lot of people together. And we do get very used to this commute, rush to the cubicle, get home as fast as you can after maybe you put in those overtime hours lifestyle. It doesn't actually have to be that way. Remote work, I think, will help in a lot of ways, too.
For many people.
Just because some people don't mind it. I hate commuting. I think commuting is like being stuck in a penal colony where I have to break rocks all day.
Yes.
Absolutely hate it. So for some folks, they like to listen to, I don't know, a fantastic radio show when they commute, so that's fine. But people should have flexibility in how they schedule their days. And, there's something really brilliant that Jordan Peterson often hits on. I'll paraphrase him. You guys all know Jordan Peterson. We had him on a little while ago. He says, your life is not pushing as hard as you can to get to that vacation on the beach with that delicious margarita. That's a break in your life. Your life is, how do your children greet you when you come home from work? How does your wife greet you or your husband greet you when you leave in the morning, whether to go get groceries or to go to your job or whatever the case may be? How do you sleep at night? How do you get along with the people you spend your time with? And so I think COVID made a lot of people think about that, struggling and putting it all into hitting VP by the time you're 40. Some people, fine, but a lot of people realize there's other stuff out there.